Hi everyone, and welcome to Behind the Numbers. I'm Dave Bookbinder, and this is the program where we dig deeper to understand what really matters most in business. Today we're going to be talking about leadership, and it's always interesting to find leadership tips from different sources, if you will. And today I'm pleased to welcome Captain Joe Sacchetti, who is the author of a book called Guts, Smarts, and Love, Live Your Life the Army Ranger Way. Captain Joe, welcome to Behind the Numbers.
Dave, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about who you are?
Well, the formative experience in my life, which we're going to chat about today, is my experience in the Army as a United States Army Ranger and paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne, with a couple of tours in Iraq, originally for Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm. And then after getting out of the Army, where I spent 9 years, switched over to technology and some pharmaceuticals. I spent the last 20 years. Today, I am the channel chief for channel sales at a software startup in California called Zadara Storage.
Nice. We're going to be talking leadership, and you mentioned a little bit about the Army background, but I want to just dive into it a little bit deeper just to set the frame for the conversation that's going to follow. So in looking through your background before the program, I noticed something about the Ranger Creed that you talk about. Tell the audience a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, the Ranger Creed is a 6-paragraph mantra on how to live your life. And specifically, it prepares the Rangers for everything they need to know and much more. And it becomes really a creed. Things like never leave a fallen comrade to fall into the hands of the enemy, and recognizing I volunteered as a Ranger, which really means recognize that I volunteered to do the near impossible.
So what inspired you to write the book?
That's a great question. I had experiences that most folks have that were so impactful to me when I was in the Army, and of course surrounded by other America's best and several in the Middle East, and they were just as impactful to me, I found, 25 years later. As they were the moment they happened. And then I also found that to the folks that I had served with, they were just as impactful. And I thought, I've learned so much of life from those experiences that I ought to share them.
Nice. Well, the book isn't available yet as we're filming this program. When will it be available, and how can folks find it?
It's out on November 11th, which you may recognize that day. That's Veterans Day. Mm-hmm. It's out November 11th for the ebook on Kindle, and then in March for the paperback.
Great, awesome. So folks can go find it literally just around the corner.
They are. It's coming right out.
Good stuff. So you were kind enough to send me an advance copy. And going through some of the chapters and identifying some of the things and topics that resonated with me, I wrote down a list here, and I wonder if we can kind of go through those to talk about your perspective and what it really means for business leadership.
That sounds great. So you checked it out, and there were a few things that resonated.
Yes, exactly. Actually, I had a very long list, but recognizing that we only have about 30 minutes for the program, I'm going to try and cut it down here and prioritize these in order for interest for the audience. But one of the first ones I wanted to talk about was creating a persona. So in the business world, as a leader, a lot of folks feel that they have to act and behave in a certain way. When you talk about creating a persona, what does that mean?
Well, I met a legend in the U.S. military called Sergeant G-Man, and he had a name that was too long for most folks in the Army to pronounce, and he was a 6'3" Greek, and I realized that he had created a persona that was larger than life because we had to endure some tough situations, and people began to just focus on this persona that he had created to follow him, as opposed to thinking about the obstacles and challenges. And so for business folks today, it could be as simple as someone who answers the phone for a living or makes cold calls. That's not a fun thing to do, and people often find that it's out of their comfort zone. But if they create a persona, this is the person that makes those phone calls. This is how that person becomes successful. It's a great tool.
So it's more or less the kind of stepping out of yourself, if you will, and thinking about this person as a character.
That's right, exactly. You are literally creating a persona, and you find that when it's a positive persona, other people are going to follow you.
Now, are people aware that they have a persona?
Well, I think that the folks that do create that persona really actively enjoy it. They love it. They see a following, and they see the results from it. So I think they do.
Okay, because I would think that there are a number of folks who are in leadership roles who are just trying to do the right thing and may not necessarily think in that kind of a context about creating a character. And what does that really mean in terms of, and this is kind of a different topic of the book, but when you think about a persona, how does that really dovetail with someone trying to be authentic, which is a topic that we hear all about these days in terms of management and leadership?
Being authentic is one of the chapters in the book as well, and that has to do with innately being that person and not really faking it, but really genuinely wanting to act in servant leadership and help and do all the right things. And I think that creating the persona is just making it more of an embodiment, more of a character, not waking up the day and saying, "Let me survive this day," but really making it much more of a difference.
So you said a buzzword there, servant leadership, which is something that I think resonates with a lot of folks who are watching and listening. How do you define servant leadership? And what does it mean from a military perspective, and then how does it translate into the business community?
I suspect that all the folks that are embracing servant leadership now, which I think is a wonderful thing, may have gotten their roots from the military, because every leader in the military eats last. It gets their rations and their equipment last, and their job is to enable the lowest ranking soldier under their command. And that's inculcated in Ranger leadership from day one.
Yeah, that's a great message, and Simon Sinek obviously made that a popular mantra in his book, Leaders Eat Last, which is a great read, by the way. So, good stuff. Let's move to another one, which is something that I think resonates. All of this stuff resonates, frankly. But when you talk about in a workforce or a team of soldiers, if you will, getting everybody motivated and rowing in the same direction, what have you learned in your experience and how to do that?
The first thing I think is that the team will look at the leader and see what he's doing. And it could be a track coach, and or it could be a lieutenant in a scout platoon, and they look to see, this is our task. Are you doing it with us? Are you out in front? And so many folks that are in the pages of Gut, Smarts, and Love are the first ones out there on the 5-mile run, and they are taking point on the patrol. So the folks in the rank and file have to see the leader out there actually doing it, and as a bonus, does it as good as anybody else in the platoon can do.
Gotcha. So from a business perspective, as I'm hearing that and parsing it in my mind, a leader has to be able to roll up their sleeves and get literally in the trenches with maybe their lowest level employee and work side by side with them as circumstances arise.
Right. How many times have we seen a CEO that was less than successful because he had literally not ever been to the shop floor? Whereas the company that is super successful has the CEO just randomly, making trips down there and knows people's names and their families and so forth.
Yeah. So are the most successful CEOs the ones that rise up through the ranks and have taken on these individual roles and kind of evolved and grown in the organization?
Well, if you look at the military example, the answer leans towards yes, but I don't think you have to have come from the very bowels of the company to have every position. But you have to have the nature and the disposition to appreciate many different skills and at least have a touch of goodness on a lot of them.
A touch of goodness, yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
So curious, will you be or are you currently doing any kind of speaking or workshops for folks who are looking to enhance these leadership skills?
Well, I am out on a good speaking tour that's planned for when the book comes, around some military posts and a couple of universities. And I do have gotten to talk to the folks at Franklin and Marshall and Temple Fox Business School. I'll be down in Fayetteville, which is right outside of Fort Bragg, in a couple of months. So I plan to do that. It's fun to share with what I consider a target demographic for the next generation, which is the folks that are in college right now.
Yeah, the young leaders, the future leadership. So a little early in the program, but since we're just talking about your speaking gigs coming up, why don't you tell the folks watching and listening how they can contact you in case they want to have you come out and maybe talk to their company?
Well, that's great. I am at www.armyranger@mit.com. It's a little website that has a lot of global leadership, travel, and business in it. You can easily find me there. And of course, the book is called Guts, Smarts, and Love, which is pretty easy to find on Amazon.
Yeah, it is, and I think we'll have a graphic of that, if not later in this segment, then certainly in the early part of the next segment. But we have just a couple of more minutes here in this first segment. I want to squeak in one more topic if we can here, and it's a topic that resonates across the business community when you talk about ROI, return on investment. Everyone likes to understand that when they do something that there's a benefit, there's a return on that endeavor. So what does that mean in terms of the military?
Well, you have folks that are so much more qualified and have so much more expertise than they did even 50 years ago. And I'm talking about the soldier. A soldier is not just a grunt anymore. The average Army soldier is so well equipped that it elevates everyone's game, especially as you go up to the special forces. And the missions have gotten quite difficult, as you know, in the Middle East. We've got to contend with a lot of things, electronic warfare and improved explosive devices and things that didn't exist a few years ago. And so the very tip top of the food chain is the special forces, and the ROI to use them comes back tenfold, but they're very expensive. So what the Army is finding is that the rank and file are able to conduct the majority of the missions, and the Army is getting outstanding return on investment by empowering their rank and file to do most of the missions.
Yeah, that's a great lesson to bring back into the business world and parse that lesson. So when you think about the younger members of a workforce, for instance, generally speaking, I think it's fair to say that they're probably better technology than some of the older folks.
That's right.
Especially when you start talking about social media and things like that. But because of their innate desire to be part of a mission, I think that perhaps maybe they're in the same way better utilized than maybe some folks are currently doing.
That's right. I mean, your book is fascinating, The New ROI, where you talk about individuals literally being an X factor in how well the company can produce results. And those folks have so much energy that when you energize them, they become an amazing force. And then you can save the tip-top expertise that tends to be most expensive for the most difficult missions.
Yeah, and appreciate that, by the way. Thank you. But when you talk about empowering, what does it mean to empower folks in business from your perspective?
Well, I think that we've got to give people that are doing the mission the tools they need, the training they need. And so you see this cycle, for instance, in sales as going out and finding the right targets, and then we're going to sign them up, or we're going to win the business, and then we're going to enable them from there to create more business, and then identify other opportunities. And it's this cycle of business in the channel world where we create sales. And so we've got to empower folks. In the Army, that clearly meant issuing equipment and then training people how to use it. Mm-hmm. And then we found that there was one particular air battle that raged in the sky above us in the Gulf, where an old A-10 aircraft, which is a very old model, started in Vietnam, because the American pilot was so well trained and knew every bit of how to roll and rise with it, shot down a MiG, a Soviet era jet, because the pilot was not nearly as skilled.
I think that's a great spot to take a break. Stay tuned, everybody. Don't go anywhere. We're going to pay a few bills, and we'll be right back on Behind the Numbers.
In Philadelphia counties, we have 6 highly experienced lawyers and have represented clients for more than 30 years regarding these issues. Our clients depend on us to sort through the complicated issues involved in divorce and division of assets, spousal and child support, and custody. We listen to them, we gather the information, and we help them make informed decisions. We pride ourselves in our knowledge and our experience. We try to settle cases when we can, but we zealously advocate for our clients at trial as experienced and successful litigators. If you need help on any of these family life issues, please call us for an appointment at 215-542-2105 or check us out on our website at www.shemtablaw.com.
Welcome back to Behind the Numbers. I'm Dave Bookbinder, and today we're talking about leadership with Captain Joe Sacchetti. Joe, a lot of good stuff in the first segment. I want to kick off this second segment by talking about something that I alluded to at the end of the first segment, especially when you think about younger employees. But I'm finding in research that it really pertains to everybody in a workforce. People want to be a part of something bigger. It's not just about cranking out a widget or a report or something. It's about a bigger mission. And in the book, I know you talk about being a part of something big.
Being a part of something big is one of the chapters that it really illustrates folks that when they're stuck in their job, literally thinking of them as being in an office, they don't know what their contribution really means. They're not always sure of it. Sergeant Doug Quitmeyer was a member of a Ranger Battalion in the mid-2000s on a particular mission that we talk about in the book. And it was beautifully brought out because the commander of this mission made sure that everyone knew what their part meant. And in fact, there was a very high value target, the number 2 man in ISIS at the time, and they needed to find this hiding spot. And if the mission went successful, the Secretary of State, that was Donald Rumsfeld at the time, would be briefed. And this was something of enormous importance. And so Doug at the time was a team leader, which means he was in charge of 4 people. And then he reported to a team leader that was a team of a squad of 10, and they were being tasked out to a Navy SEAL detachment of 23. So there's 7 men, and 23 made a 30-man patrol that had to go into a remote place. They had to walk from Afghanistan into Pakistan, and it took them 30 days to do it. And you really can question yourself during that kind of time. But they knew they were part of something enormously big. And when they did finally find the mission, get there, they were able to locate this secret hiding spot. And it was an enormous success. It eventually saved a lot of lives.
What do you think is good advice for leaders in the business world then in terms of how to get their folks bought in articulating that mission so that they're really feeling that same experience?
Leaders today have to let their people know what the mission is, the concept of the mission. So if somebody gets sick, misses a day, or in Army terms, sometimes if someone is eliminated, then the rest of the team can carry out the mission.
And how about articulating that mission?
Well, I think that the Army has this tried and true method of a mission brief that's 5 paragraphs, and it handles the who, what, when, and where. Now, not to that extent, but folks in civilian business should do something like that. They should let everyone know the who, what, when, where, and the why.
Yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot, but are there any companies that you might think of off the top of your head that do a good job in articulating that from what you've seen or experienced?
Well, I was a part of pharmaceutical for quite some time, and when I was at Pfizer, they spent a lot of time on professional development, and they let folks know, the who, what, and why. And so it was more than just let's sell this drug, but we were trying to educate people in different their different drug states and so forth. And technology-wise, I mean, Dell has done a great job over the years. They said, our mission is to bring technology at an affordable pace. And of course, I work for a company now that has a mission to give folks a little different option on how they might want to use their data storage and their compute power, other than just what's available to them.
Okay. So folks back in the production room, if you guys have a graphic shot of Captain Joe's book, it'd be a good time to put it on the screen. There you go. Gut, Smarts, and Love. Live your life the Army Ranger way. Coming soon. Check it out on Amazon. Captain Joe, wanted to talk about a topic that is kind of critical for anybody who is walking into a job interview, walking into a new client's office. It's making that first impression. And a lot of times it's making sure that you're dressed appropriately, obviously speak articulately. What does it mean to make a great first impression in the military and then translate that to the business world? It's
so important, as we know, because there's a phrase, you only get one opportunity to make that first impression. And what I found in the book, which we talk about, is the interesting two-way street of making a first impression. As a brand new second lieutenant, I reported to my unit in the 82nd Airborne, and And I was trying to make the best impression I could, standing tall, looking good, already having been through Ranger School, and I figured, I would be able to take command, and I wanted to make a first impression. And what was most interesting to me is that when I got to the unit, I saw all the folks I was trying to make impression on, they made more of an impression on me. I saw these amazing senior sergeants that just in their daily life, they just lived and breathed this positivity and this absolute control, the ability to be bilingual. Which when the Army means you look to the right and you talk to a bunch of privates and tell them what to do. Then you turn to the left and you can talk to a general and make an insightful comment that will have him smiling. And so the making of the first impression, I realized, was this great two-way synergy. And then making an impression really carries through to the entire organization, and it makes the organization better when everyone is always trying to be their best version of themselves.
Yeah, so what's a good tip for somebody who's watching or listening and wants to figure out a shortcut hack, if you will, for making a really good impression?
Well, for the young folks that are out there, there's no substitute for looking good, being tidy, having run in the morning. I mean, if you talk about a hack and you want to be ready for an 8 o'clock meeting, wake up a half hour early and get a 20-minute run or bike downstairs. There's something about energizing the system that makes you feel great about yourself and gives you more confidence.
Morning work, I got to tell you, in all fairness and honesty, full disclosure here, I've never been able to really exercise in the morning. I'm more a workout at night kind of guy. For me, it was like rolling out of bed and vacuuming. Just could not wrap my head around it. So power to you for that, and anybody else who can do it. Captain Joe, how can folks get in touch with you if they want to learn more about you or have you come talk to them?
Well, I'd love to talk to folks. Leadership is my favorite topic. I've got an easy way to reach out, armyranger@mit.com as a website. I've got or a YouTube channel. Please reach out. I've got a nice array of speaking engagements at colleges and some military bases coming up. And I love to talk leadership.
Yeah, definitely check them out and definitely check out the book. We have about 5 minutes to go here. I want to talk about one more topic if we can squeeze it in here. And when we think about the business community, a lot of times as teams are put together, sometimes it's folks from different departments that are working together on a particular project. Sometimes it's folks who are in the same department, but they've got to come together, and they may not always necessarily agree on the mission or the process. How do you bring teams together from a military perspective?
Well, we live in a world of mergers and acquisitions and groups that are coming together that didn't organically start together. Yet, at some point, they find that they have the joint mission. And this has been happening for thousands of years. It happens in businesses every day, and it certainly happens in the Army. In the mid-2000s, when Iraq was being put back on its feet, our special forces teams had a mission to bring factions together. One of the characters in the book, Sergeant Joe Brewer, was a team sergeant for a special forces team. And for the readers at home, the viewers, that is a vaunted position. Being the team sergeant of a special forces team of 10 is a tremendous responsibility. And they were charged with setting up a security force in Iraq. And what does that mean? Well, they were literally given recruits and a building and training dollars, and they had Sunnis and Shia and Kurds all together. And those factions did not play well in the previous years together. And Sergeant Brewer said, the first thing we're going to do is take away all the walls out of all the rooms, and we're going to make one big room. And that's where we're putting all the beds and the living quarters. And the Shias and the Sunnis and the Kurds all live together. And then the part two of that was they made their training so difficult that they didn't have time to hate each other. They were exhausted, and they focused on this near impossible mission that our Special Forces Rangers had set up for them, and they were successful.
I'm going to let you now take the lead and parse that back into the business community. How do you advise leaders to bring teams together when there's disparate opinions?
Well, I think that you have great great examples when companies merge and you have departments that are coming together. And the first thing that the leader needs to do is to bring them together and say, in the new world that we have, this department is going to focus on this, and this department complementary is going to focus on this. Yes, there was some overlap. If you drew a Venn diagram, there's a few people in each department, and this is how we're going to redeploy them. And don't leave people to guess, because guessing leads to worry, leads to non-productivity and bad things.
Oh yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, the absence of information leads to speculation, and that speculation is often really bad wrong. Yeah, it doesn't play well. I think we've got to end the conversation here. Unfortunately, time goes very quickly here on Behind the Numbers. I want to thank you for joining us today, Captain Joe. Thanks so much.
Well, thanks for having me, Dave. It's great. I really enjoyed in this process reading your book, by the way, and it's given me some great things to think about and add in. I hope you don't mind me capturing a few things from your book and adding them into my chats.
I'd be humbled, thank you, and I can't wait to get my mitts on your book. And thank you for watching and listening to Behind the Numbers. We've been talking about leadership with Captain Joe Sacchetti. Great perspective. The new book, Guts, Smarts, and Love, Live Your Life the Army Ranger Way. If you are watching, listening, please subscribe, leave a review, let us know where you're watching and listening from so that we can stay in touch with you. And again, thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in. I'm Dave Bookbinder. We will see you next time on Behind the Numbers. Take care, everybody.